Welcome to On the Brink with Andi Simon. Thank you for joining us today. Whether you're watching or you're listening, it's always my pleasure to help you hear from people who want to help you see, feel, and think in new ways. Over the years, I've done 7 years of podcasting, over 400 podcasts. My mission remains the same. I want you to see things through a fresh lens. I want you to hear from people their stories so you can change your own. And remember, your brain has a story in it, and very often that story reduces what you can actually imagine and how you can do it. And unless you hear how others have done it, you're beginning to question, can I? Is this something that's doable? Why not? Today I have Max Teplitski here with you. He has been a client of ours, came through another client who I love dearly. And I thank them both because their stories are really perfect for a podcast about change. Now, let me tell you a brief bio for Max. It's quite an elaborate one, and I like to make it short so he can tell you himself about his own journey. But Max is going to talk today about the work we've done to see, feel, and think about his organization, the IFPA, International Fresh Produce Association. Now, Max came in 2020, and he came to IFPA, had a different name then, to run science, technology, supply chain, and sustainability efforts. This is really important. All of our produce has to be safe and sustainable, and so much is changing today. He brings a wealth of experience in leading national food safety and nutrition programs, building and sustaining private-public partnerships, and really globally recognized accomplishments in science, scientific policy, and he's got a rich research background in microbiology, biotechnology, and sustainability of agricultural production. Max is not typical of my interviewees, but he is an absolutely wonderful illustration of how a little blue ocean thinking can help you reflect on what you're doing and why it's important to change. You know, blue ocean thinking, I've done 500 workshops on blue ocean, mostly for business leaders. But the problem is that we tend to compete instead of create. And the problem for us today is it's hard to know what our clients are really in need of as they are changing. And the world, whether it's AI or blockchain or supply chain, everything is changing. And I don't want to get too deep into tariffs and trade, but today is a lot about how do you change? Max, I can't tell you what a pleasure it was to work with you and so nice to have you here today. Thank you for joining me.
Well, Andy, thank you, thank you. Thank you for working with us. Thank you for the elaborate introduction, and I'm just so thrilled to be here.
Tell our audiences, whether they're watching or listening, who is Max? What's your journey like? It was a wonderful bio, and I made it short so that you can tell your story with more personality to it than I can read it. Tell me about who's Max?
Sure. Well, Andy, I'm a blue ocean practitioner since probably 2 decades ago.
Yes.
Um, I heard about it in a seminar, and then it made perfect sense. And especially in the world where we're so focused on competing, we are not looking at why we're competing and what value we're creating. And as a matter of fact, when I first heard about Blue Ocean's strategy, I was a professor. And many people don't realize, but the academic nonprofit world subject to the exact same forces of nature and human behavior, and we are competing sometimes just to compete. So back in the day, I used the blue ocean thinking to reorganize our own um, research program at the University of Florida, where I was at a time. And then I reached out to you a few months ago to help us think through blue ocean strategy for food safety portfolio at International Fresh Produce Association. And the challenges were the same. The world is changing. On the brink, the world is on the brink, the industry is on the brink. And what's pushing us to the brink are the forces that are external and internal. Um, we talk a lot about Gen Z and how they're different in their worldview and their perceptions and the way they spend money. We also talk about AI and how it's disrupting every aspect of our lives, whether we realize it or not. So, what value can we provide to the members? What value we can provide to the industry? What value we can provide to the consumers? That was an open question, and I'm so grateful for you helping us untangle it.
As we worked together, we realized there were a couple of things that needed to be explored. Well, and this is my own affection for listening to what customers or clients or members are actually needing or wanting, and the kinds of ways our clients are actually doing things. Give us a little of the history of the IFPA and where it was at. What was the catalytic moment? And then I'll talk a little bit about with you what your customers or members were beginning to reveal to you. Give us a foundation here.
Yeah. So International Fresh Produce Association is a trade association that represents the entire fresh produce supply chain, from seed and fertilizer companies all the way to the retailers around the world. We are in, oh gosh, more than 50 countries, and we have close to 3,000 member companies. So 90% of fresh produce that you purchase at a grocery store or at a restaurant has been handled by at least three of our members at some point um, in the production or conception or transportation. So we are in your life, whether you know it or not. And IFPA started, well, IFPA stands on 100 plus years of history of two legacy organizations, Produce Marketing Association and United Fresh. And a merger a few years ago resulted in IFPA. And a merger again was a deliberate process. There were two trade associations in the same space competing in some ways. So the decision was made by the volunteer leaders to join the forces and really focus on the value that the organization can provide to the members and also to the consumers. And before we start working with you on the blue ocean strategy, we went through a several months long strategic planning process. It was a deliberate process, and we landed on three pillars. Pillar number one is future-proofing the industry. With all the disruptions, supply chain challenges, changing climate, and how that impacts production and distribution and consumption, um, changes in the labor force. Who is going to wake up at 3 in the morning and be in the field harvesting, the crops that we so enjoy eating? So future-proofing the industry was pillar number one. The second pillar was worldwide influence. For a global industry, we need to have global presence and influence. And the reason being is we're a globe. We are an increasingly interconnected people. And routes of trade, routes of distribution are becoming increasingly connected and codependent. And the third pillar is personalized member experience. So how do you provide this unique personalized experience to more than 3,000 member companies and making individuals feel like um, they are receiving unique value and not just going to a website to download a report. So with that background, we really started focusing on food safety portfolio. How do we uniquely fit into those strategic pillars? And how do we provide value to the members and to the consumers? Because ultimately, food safety is for the consumers, and that's why we're doing it.
As you're talking, it reminds me that the way you're thinking about it, was that the same way that your members are thinking about it? And so we went out to talk to some of your members and to get their perspective on how important was to be future-proofed. What was global in their thinking and how to make it personalized so that somehow the echo back would be driving the decisions that we need to make. And so it's important for us to really begin to think through the alignment during your strategy planning. How did you begin to choose those that were relevant for such a vast majority, a wide, variety of people out there, large producers and small ones, and all the way to the distributors and to the supermarkets um, and anything like that that can be sort of your own discovery process.
Mhm. I think the most fascinating thing that came out of this work is the strength that you have identified in interviews were in the exact same buckets as the opportunities.
Uh-huh.
To me, that was fascinating, right? Um, Based on your analysis, members said, advocacy is both a strength and a gap. Communication is a strength and a gap. Scientific integrity is a strength and a gap. Education and training is a strength and a gap. Supply chain representation, global perspective. And it took me a minute to sit with it and to figure out, how could it be that the same exact portfolio is both an opportunity and why they come to us. It- and where we landed, I think, is it's a dial, right? We can over-index in some things on that dial, and then miss some of the important considerations that the members are thinking about. Like, for example, on communication, they really love getting the updates, but then on the other hand, you know, too many emails. And I think the opportunity there is not more emails, not fancier font, not call outs and fun little things in the subject, but really making that communication personalized. And now with AI, and I'm actually so excited to tell you that we are rolling out our intelligence engine
Oh,
in a couple of weeks, um, which is an AI-driven agent, and it has access to the data that IFPA procured, verified, and gated. So AI is interesting because AI is trying to go outside of the box as much as it can. So it was quite an effort to keep it in the box and in the data lake with the data that we know we can stand behind. But now it gives any member an opportunity to come into the agent and ask, you know what? I live in the
uh-huh.
Florida Panhandle and I'm getting ready to plant winter crops and I'm debating between Asian greens, spinach, and I don't know, baby lettuce. So give me some ideas. And the AI agent gives the breakdown, both the consumer trends that we're seeing. It tells about point of sale data for these specific commodities. It pulls up any other considerations that are relevant. So that's personalized member experience. That's the communication that the members are looking for. And if you allow me, education and training was another strength and a gap. And you and I and our team spent quite a bit of time thinking about education and training, and that entire education itself has been evolving over the last, well, since the dawn of humanity, quite frankly. Um, so how do we, it's not about any more classes. It's not about a week-long immersion program, but it's about this on-demand training at the right time in the right bits and pieces. And again, we're leveraging AI in a way that is fascinating and super productive. We're able to put specific guidance documents into the agent, and we can ask it, generate a 5-minute invocation for the harvesting crew for cantaloupes. And by the way, do it in Portuguese
Uh-huh.
because that's where the harvesting crew is from. Um, I think that is the future, both understanding the need, hearing what the need is, but then not outsourcing the execution. Members come to us, they're very clear on what they need. They may not necessarily be very prescriptive in the widget genesis, and it's up to us to figure it out.
But now the collaboration is enormous. Because I did a Vistage talk in Washington, D.C. in December, and many of the members of these groups were associations. And they were saying, what is our role when AI can do what people used to come here for in the past? What you're hearing is a role that's both creating a new market, it's a whole new sandbox. It's using the new technology in a very um, a unique and proprietary way. I mean, you're giving your members something they can't get from a general AI inquiry. Maybe they could, but here it's really more certified and protected, and they can do it fast on their time when they need it. And the old world of information through emails, videos, etc., were nice. But now it's no longer easy and relevant to spend time learning. I need it now. Before I start the seed, tell me what it is I need to do. This is very impressive, exciting, and very blue ocean. You're adding value innovatively. It's marvelous. Tell us some more. What else are you doing?
So two more things. As a trade association, obviously we need to focus on advocacy, and this is telling the story of the industry to the decision makers and to the world. And AI, we cannot outsource it to AI. We can use some tools that AI can help us generate, but sort of speaking to decision makers and conveying the point of view of the consumers of the industry is so critical, and we're going to double down there as well. And finally, as you remember, the last bullet that we landed on was creating community of practice.
Yes.
And this is still fairly wide open because humans are communal animals. And again, this is how we evolved. And these communities take different shapes. Um, and I think that's right now is probably where we're spending the most time thinking. What does this community look like? Is it virtual? Is it in person? Oh, by the way, we do put on some of the greatest trade shows for the industry. And if you haven't attended, we are going to be in Anaheim next week, so come join us. But outside of that, what does the community of practice look like for food safety professionals, for sustainability? We're still thinking on how to bring that spirit of human connectedness into the reality that we live in.
Well, in the vacuum people create. My hunch is there's not a vacuum here, but there is an evolution going on. And for youngers, it's different than for olders. And it is an interesting time for thinking about peers and mentors and how we help each other through partnerships. And it's going to be actually that's going to be one of the most interesting creations that you can come up with because people need it and they want to, but it's not always that easy. A, to form it and then to use the network in a positive way and to think of it as a IFPA collaboration of some sort. This is going to be an interesting transformation for you.
Yeah. Well, and another challenge for us is when you ask people on the street, agriculture, what is the word association? And for many, it will be, that painting American Gothic, the farmer and his wife with a pitchfork. And unfortunately, that's the image of the industry that a lot of people have in their mind. So we're trying to, undo that and tell the world that the horticulture industry is the industry of the future. It's exciting. It's the industry of drones and GIS and AI and precision breeding. So how do we make sure that the communities where we grow and the communities where we sell look the same and speak the same languages, literally? And we have over 100 different commodities on the shelves in any supermarket. So how do we ensure that these 100 different commodities all loved the same way and represent the diversity of the buyers and the communities where we are?
Yeah.
So there's an added layer in that conversation. And frankly, the end goal of it is to make the industry attractive for the next generation of talent. Um, it's not just that guy with a pitchfork. We need young people. We need new people, new ideas in the industry.
Not so easy. I remember we had Delaware Valley University as a client, um, and it had a big ag program, and the cows could be milked by laser. And then we met a woman who's got a cow farm, and she said, "Well, that's it's too expensive. My labor is more community." And then there was a gentleman out in Sacramento who's a farmer, and he said he and his father are having a debate constantly about when the tomatoes are ready to be picked. And my drones are telling me one thing, and he's telling me you have to feel them. And transformation and transitions humans brains they hate change and they hate it because it puts at risk what they know to be true, and how can that drone or other sensor actually know it? And then there are tractors who will call for their own oil change and their autonomous vehicles, and so the transformation is coming. I want to know what kind of image you're going to have that farmer with his pitchfork and his wife, because it's going to be a period of great transformation, and I want to know what your icon is going to be, not today, but what its meaning is going to be into whose eyes, because we don't have a younger community going into it, we're going to have a hard time having robots, produce it.
Yeah, and there are clearly some jobs that nobody dreams about doing. If you work in a distribution center with sub-zero temperatures and you're packing boxes, that's nobody's dream job.
No.
And it's ripe for robots
Yep.
getting up at 3 in the morning while it's still cool to pick produce in the field, bend up and down every 30 seconds to cut that product off the vine. Again, it's quite a workout. So I don't think some of those quite literally back-breaking jobs will be missed. But I am actually heartened by the enthusiasm of a lot of young people as they're working in the community gardens and they're thinking of their connection to horticulture. They're just making sure that we can scale it. And I think that's bringing back to our initial conversation. There's a lot of innovation in the industry. Future-proofing the industry can look so many different ways. How do we scale it in a way that is sustainable, both from the economic point of view and also from the planetary point of view? And there are a lot of conversations there.
Yes. I don't want to lose the safety part of our conversation because it was at a time when some produce was unsafe. And blockchain chips put on cattle so you can track and trace them from the feedlot, from the grass they were being fed on to the table. But how do you address the safety concerns of the consumer on this on one hand, and on the other hand, the needs for the producers to make sure that they can provide safe food? Because I do think that along the entire chain, it's not an inconsequential question.
Yeah, and that's a great question, Andy. Safety of fresh produce is sort of the compact that we have with the consumers. And most of fresh produce is consumed raw, out of the box, out of the bag. It doesn't undergo additional cooking. So food safety considerations are serious, they're real. And a product that grows in the open field, exposed to the all of the nature. Um, I think it's important to first step back and acknowledge all the work that the producers are doing to make sure that the product is so safe. And you brought up the blockchain. And in reality, fresh produce industry were the pioneers in building a blockchain specifically so that we can track every lot of fresh produce from the field to the distribution center. So we know exactly where every lot is at any given minute. And part of the work that we're doing at IFPA is supply chain of the future.
Mm.
And that's another opportunity to both ensure safety of produce, but also ensure its quality and get value out of the data that we're collecting across the entire supply chain. And that data has real value. If the product is fresher, if it lasts longer on the shelves, producers should be expecting to get remunerated in a way that incentivizes them to deliver this longer lasting product. And when we talk about food safety, it's telling the story of the industry and telling the story of all the work in the food safety culture that is front and center in every field, in every packing house, in every distribution center. You know, um, You'd be quite surprised when you go to a field, you will be asked to wear a white lab coat and gloves and a hairnet in the open field, right? And there are hand washing stations with soap in every field. And when you go to a processing facility, you'd have to wear specific booties and you get, cleaned up in a disinfectant solution. So there is a lot of work that the industry is doing in the background that consumers frankly, don't need to see to make sure that fresh produce is as safe as we could make it. So yes, absolutely critical conversation, and it's front and center for the industry to make sure that the product is not only delicious and nutritious, but also safe.
I have two questions going through my noodle, one of which is how do you help your folks go through the transformation? They were wonderful to work with, and change is painful for humans. And but as a change agent yourself, um, they are now having to accept a whole different definition of what their jobs are, along the three pillars, but also the application of those, listening to clients and being responsive, and not simply having a box to check off or a job to have. And I am asking you that because other blue ocean strategy clients of ours often run into the roadblock of the good ideas go nowhere because the folks resist or reject. How about you? How do you do it well?
Yeah, that's a great question, Andy. Um, I was just listening to Jane Goodall's podcast, just binging over the weekend, and she kept referring to us as large brain mammals.
Yes.
And it's such an interesting way to frame who we are, large brain mammals. So, evolution, God gave us this big brain, and what do we do with it? It is important. And change management, of course, is a serious issue. And strategy is important. And then, of course, you heard that the culture eats strategy for lunch, right? And I have to highlight the fact that in our organization, culture work is central. So we take it very seriously. We work on culture deliberately. We meet as an organization 4 times a year just to talk about organizational culture. And we have competencies that each year as an organization, we work on competencies and we help each other and provide feedback up and down, sideways. So this year, for example, we're working on trust, communication, and agility. And it's in everybody's annual plan to, identify behaviors that help me achieve those competencies and identify behaviors that are getting in the way of those competencies. So having this culture, organizational culture in place makes it much easier to work on strategic initiatives. When we trust each other, when we assume good intent, when we have agility, and when we're able to communicate and explain where we're going, what we're doing is absolutely critical. So I'm not trying to sort of not answer a question, but
No, it's a good answer for the question. It's
that's
grounded in who you are. It's great.
it's a long answer to the question because change is fundamentally disruptive, and there are very few large brain mammals who look forward to disruption. Change is not comfortable, is disruptive, but having the culture, organizational culture that is conducive to both self-reflection and advancement and curiosity, I think that's the magic answer.
To be honest, you have a magic organization. You're
Yeah.
intentional about it. You've got a process for it. People understand what the culture is and means and how to live it. That strategy is only good if you can live it.
Yep.
And often it's at odds with the way you live. So consequently, it's easier to resist it than it is to embrace it because you don't understand it. This is a wonderful answer. Thank you very much. And my last question is, how about your clients, your customers, your members? Have they responded to your new initiatives the way you had expected? Or is it too soon?
Um, Both. Certainly, we've engaged the members in every step of the process. Strategic planning was a volunteer members driven effort, and the Blue Ocean Conversation involved a broad cross section of the membership. And now, in going back to them and sharing with them, we heard you, and here's what we're doing. And there are some, Blue Ocean is could be rough. The first two bullets are reduce and eliminate.
Yes.
And sometimes there is emotional attachment. There is a legacy. Oh, I was a member. I was a part of this program,
Yes.
and I've invested time in this program 2 decades ago. It's near and dear to me, and now seeing it go away is it could be hurtful. But I think once we put the totality of the conversation in the context, and when we said, you know what, we're not going to do any more large in-person training, and before the members have a chance to say, but, we say, but look, let me demo this AI agent that can help in the field with the harvesting crew, with oh, by the way, FDA auditors are coming, and your accountant needs to get all the papers together. So the same agent can help your the
Hmm.
harvesting crew and the accountant to be compliant. And AI agents are now also helping with advancing organizational culture.
Yes.
It's kind of scary. I've asked my agent, to provide feedback on my behavior based on types of questions that it's observing. Um, so managing change is complicated, but also as we assume good intent, both in the organization and with the members, and when we take away or reduce or eliminate some of the products that no longer serve us and explain what we're going to substitute them with or replace them with, or how we're going to do it better and not just walk away from something just to walk away. I think it lands pretty positively. So thank you for walking us through that treacherous red ocean.
Well, it's easy to stay where we are, but if it's no longer working, I mean, just think about our conversation today. I usually ask our speakers as we're wrapping up one or two or three things I don't want the audience to forget. I would like to start with that and then let you, edit my stuff or add to it. Because think about blue ocean means to add value innovatively. It isn't just to be incremental or just in a old-fashioned way of doing it. So the old was good, but not necessarily relevant for now. So how do you think about your own organization? You're going to stop competing and create something. The world's changing. How can you add agents that can add learning on the job at the time that you need it so you remember what to do with it and you can actually play it back to the agent and say, is this what you meant? And it works. The new tools are not fearful. Don't be afraid of them. They're fabulous. And then my third thing is you're finding unmet needs among your current members that they couldn't say to you, I need this. But they could say, I don't like that. And now the question is, how do we help them do better? Because we know what they want. They want faster, they want safer, they want a supply chain that works better, delivers it less time with better, I mean, all kinds of things that come from them without them saying, can you? And it's a time of collaboration and community building. Those were my couple of don't forgets. How about you? What don't you want our listeners to forget?
Yeah, as somebody who's been working with you and with others on the blue ocean, sometimes people misinterpret blue ocean as creating the next widget, the next iPhone. And it is so important, A, to understand that there are only one or two next iPhones.
Yes.
And it's looking at the totality of need and thinking of the ways to meet that need, and not necessarily with a widget, with a single magic widget, but with a thoughtful portfolio of products or services. And for nonprofits who will never create a widget,
Yes.
how do we get in this space that is congested, but also so ripe with the need? The industries and the world and the consumers are experiencing disruption the same way everybody is. And, we've seen many associations and community groups rise and fall just because they were so attached to a notion or to a product
Yes.
that they were delivering. You know, I was just talking with somebody about AAA. 2 decades ago, there was no trip without AAA maps and with trip text. And you would go in the office and
That
would
well.
highlight the route for you. I love that. And now, an iPhone replaced entire industries, or not just iPhone, whatever your, um, handheld device of choices. So for nonprofits that are meeting specific needs, it's important not only to see what the need is, but also to be very clear about what disruption is and where the disruption is coming from and anticipate it and get ahead of it.
Yep. I also want to echo what you said. You don't need a widget. You need a value that, in a different fashion, solves the needs of people out there, and you do it collaboratively. Is better than thinking you know, because they'll help you design in a way that lifts it higher than anyone by ourselves can do it. As you talked about Jane Goodall, she spoke a lot about we, not I. And we know that the brain does much better when it's a we conversation, not an I know, you do. It doesn't work well. It fights it all the way. Max, this has been absolutely an honor and a privilege and a pleasure working with you and your staff doing Blue Ocean Strategy. Um, from For a believer that starts out and it's I believe in it. Now, how do I do this? And I say let's because each one is a different experience, and I'm most in awe of what you've taken and your folks have taken and created something really quite remarkable. I wish you and your organization great wealth, health, and happiness over the next few years because it will change again. Strategies today are maybe 2 years in length if we can get that far out, but that makes us agile and enjoyable, right?
Andy, it was an absolute pleasure to work with you, and we'll look forward to now living the new strategy, and we invite everybody to keep up with us and watch our journey. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Once you get a mindset, it's hard to look back and say, "Oh, I don't like doing this," because you must love doing it. You wake up in the morning and go, "Oh, that's a good idea." For all of our listeners and our viewers, thanks for coming. Simon Associates is here to help you see, feel, and think in new ways. And On the Brink with Andi Simon is designed to bring you people with great stories to share. Think about what you heard and learned from Max today, because it is transformative for you, your organization, your company, small or large businesses. It doesn't matter. The times they are changing. All of my books are on Amazon. And I will tell you, I'm working on a new one, but I'm not going to tell you what it's about yet. It's still in that kind of, this is a good book. Have a great day, everybody. Please send me your ideas at info@simonassociates.net and send along some great people to talk to, even yourself. You'd be amazed at how many people are writing me and say, I want to be on your podcast. And I'm laughing and I'm saying, there are only so many weeks and so many days, but they're all cool people. So we're having fun. Goodbye, my friend. Take care of yourself. Bye bye now.